After a fellow psychologist had suffered a heart attack, Dean's caseload had doubled. Lou Wheeler was one of 10 inmates recently handed over to him. Although Dean preferred to follow an inmate's journey from the day of incarceration to the date of their release, many of his clients, like Lou Wheeler, remained locked up long after serving their sentence due to bad behavior.
"Come on in,"
Dean said. 22 years ago, Lou Wheeler had raped and strangled a 25-year-old woman before burying her on his property in Clarksburg. It was believed he'd also killed his wife, but there hadn't been enough evidence to convict him for her death. His chains clanked as the guard ushered him to the chair in front of Dean's desk. Dean looked at the guard.
"Remove his cuffs."
He wasn't sure who looked more surprised, the guard or the prisoner. But the uniformed man did as he asked, then stepped outside the office and shut the door. According to his last counselor, Lou Wheeler was easily angered. But being shackled caused most inmates to shut down, and the whole purpose of his being here was to get him to open up. Lou Wheeler squinted at him. He looked older than his 69 years. Scars from acne had left deep craters on his face.
"I'm Dean Crawford. How are you doing?"
Lou stared him down as if assessing the situation.
"I could use a smoke."
Dean opened the bottom drawer of his desk to his right and pulled out a cigarette, lighter, and ashtray and set the items in front of Lou. Lou lit up, took a long drag. As smoke rolled slowly out of his nostrils, he said,
"So what do you want?" "Standard evaluation, just like Jacob Harrison used to do."
Lou chuckled. Dean scratched his head.
"It says here in your file that you haven't been attending group therapy."
Lou leaned over and blew smoke at Dean's face.
"I don't need therapy."
There was a long pause before Dean asked,
"Aren't you curious to know what happened to Jacob?"
A scar ran through the corner of Lou's upper lip, making him look as if he were snarling at him.
"Did someone finally take this son of a bitch out? Heart attack. Now that Jacob Harrison is gone, I'm the guy who will be doing your evaluations."
Lou's laughter came out as a snort.
"You find that amusing?" "Yeah, I do."
He took another long hit until his lungs were filled to the brim with carcinogens and toxins. Dean looked back at the folder on his desk and leafed through his records. Harrison's scribblings were difficult to read, but not impossible. Lou Wheeler has maintained his innocence since day one of his incarceration. Can't seem to keep his hands to himself. Raised in a string of foster homes. Angry. Doesn't talk much. Hates just about everybody and everything. Likes to provoke other inmates. Fond of pushing people's buttons. Dean turned his attention back to the man.
"You have 24 disciplinary offenses to date."
Lou eyed the ashtray and tossed his cigarette butt to the floor. Then he looked around the room as if he was bored. Dean stood, picked up the cigarette butt, and stubbed it out in the ashtray. He sat down again and continued to skim Harrison's scribbly notes.
"Inmate has failed to make progress since his incarceration. Antisocial and uncooperative with staff. Disciplinary action recommended if Lou Wheeler continues to skip anger management meetings. Parole will not be recommended at this time or in the foreseeable future due to poor behavior."
Dean shut the file and leaned back in his chair.
"You were sentenced to 25 years, and now it's more than double that. You were recently placed in lockdown for threatening the guards. All you had to do was keep your head down and your hands at your sides, and you would have walked out of here years ago. What's the deal?"
Silence.
"Why did you kill her?"
Lou looked at him then, eyes dull and unblinking.
"I never killed nobody. Tell me about your wife and kids."
Lou rubbed his chin.
"Never should have married the worthless, no-good bitch. She didn't know how to shut the fuck up." "And your kids?" Dean asked. "What about them? Do you have a relationship with them?" "They're dead to me."
Dean looked back at the